Most people wear masks so well, they forget they're even pretending. But if you know what to look for, you can make those masks fall fast. Machiavelli didn't believe in words. He believed in pressure. Because pressure reveals truth. And truth is power. In the modern world, people hide their real motives behind charm, empathy, and empty promises. They'll smile with you, eat with you, even sleep beside you, while secretly planning how to use you. And if you're naive enough to take everyone at face value, you're not just at risk, you're already being played. But here's the brutal truth. You don't need to confront people to know their intentions. You don't need to interrogate or accuse. You just need to know the right psychological triggers. The subtle mind games that quietly strip their mask without them even realizing it. Machiavelli understood that power isn't found in exposure. It's found in extraction. The man who knows why people act owns them before they even speak. By the end of this video, you'll have 7 surgical mind games pulled from Machiavellian principles and modern psychology that will expose fake loyalty, hidden resentment, jealousy, secret agendas, and more. You'll see people for who they really are, not who they pretend to be. Before we begin, we thank you all for your support. Kindly hit the subscribe button to subscribe. Like, share, and comment for more captivating videos. Let's dive in. Game 1, the delayed response test. In a world addicted to instant gratification, silence is a weapon. One of the fastest ways to reveal someone's true intentions is simple. Delay your response. Whether it's a text, a call, or a direct question, don't reply immediately. Wait. Let them sit in the uncertainty. Let the silence stretch. Because silence isn't emptiness, it's a mirror. And what they do while waiting reveals everything. Most people can wear a mask when they feel in control, but when they're made to wait, the mask slips. The needy will panic. The manipulative will grow irritated. The insecure will spiral into self-doubt. But the composed, the ones who aren't using you, will stay calm, unbothered, and unmoved. That's your first filter. Understand this. A person's emotional discipline is revealed not when things go their way, but when they don't. And delayed response is the easiest way to tilt that balance. It throws them off rhythm. It introduces friction into their expectations, and friction exposes character. This is not about playing games for attention. It's about testing pressure thresholds. Because power in any relationship lies with the person who needs less. The one who can delay, who can detach, who can observe without reacting, always holds the higher ground. Here's what to watch for. Do they double text you after no reply? Do they follow up with irritation, guilt-tripping, or passive aggression? Do they assume the worst about your silence? These are signs of control hidden beneath politeness. Now, flip the frame. What if someone doesn't react at all to your delay? That's strength. That's self-sufficiency. That's a person who doesn't rely on external validation, and that's rare. Machiavelli would say, "He who controls time, controls tension." Let your silence become pressure. Let your delay create discomfort. Because if someone can't handle the weight of waiting, they were never strong enough to stand beside you in the first place. Remember, you don't need to raise your voice to find the truth. Just wait and watch what rises in the silence. Game 2. Give them freedom. Watch their choices. Most people think control is power, but the greatest control is in the opposite. Freedom. Here's the test. Don't restrict them. Don't monitor them. Don't ask where they're going, who they're talking to, or what they're doing. Just give them full freedom and step back, then watch. Because when people believe they're not being watched, when they think they're free from consequence, that's when they reveal their real selves. Machiavelli knew. The unobserved man reveals his true character. He understood that pressure creates performance, but freedom creates honesty. This game isn't about confrontation. It's about quiet observation. It's about removing the leash and seeing whether they stay or run. Whether they act with integrity or opportunism. Whether they use their freedom to move closer or disappear into silence. Ask yourself, when you stop checking in, do they still check on you? When you don't initiate, do they initiate back? When there's no control, do they still choose you? Or do they vanish? If someone only behaves when you're watching, they're not loyal. They're compliant. And compliance disappears the moment the authority figure steps away. Understand this. The real ones don't change just because the lights go off. But the opportunists, they only perform when they think it benefits them. Strip away the performance, and you see their core. This is where most people make the mistake. They try to enforce loyalty through surveillance, through questions, through demand. That's not loyalty, that's fear. And fear-based loyalty always fractures under pressure. But when you give someone freedom, and they still choose to respect you, choose to check on you, choose to stand beside you, that's rare, that's powerful. That's someone you can trust. Remember, no one shows you who they are when they feel watched. But give them space, give them silence, give them total autonomy, and you'll see whether they're real or just rehearsing. This is Machiavellian strategy at its finest. Do less. Watch more. Control nothing. Learn everything. Let them roam, not to punish but to reveal. Because trust isn't built on words, it's built on unsupervised behavior. If they come back on their own, you never had to ask. And that's the kind of loyalty that doesn't break, it endures. Game 3. Ask for nothing. See who gives. This is one of the most brutal but accurate games in the Machiavellian arsenal. Stop asking. Stop initiating. Stop checking in. Stop reminding them of your existence. Say nothing. Expect nothing. Request nothing. And then, just observe. Because the moment you go cold, the moment your effort disappears, the mask on everyone around you begins to slip. You'll find out who was giving out of care and who was giving to receive. Here's the reality. The selfish only show up when there's something in it for them. The moment they can't use you, they vanish. This is the test. Don't text them. Don't call them. Don't ask for a favor, support, or even attention. Silence is your scalpel, and what it cuts is the illusion. Those who cared only when you were useful, gone. Those who stayed silent once they couldn't benefit, exposed. Those who genuinely value you, they'll step forward without needing to be summoned. Machiavelli didn't beg, he calculated. He removed effort not to punish, but to study. To see clearly who was dependent on his movement versus who moved on their own. This tactic is not cruelty. It's clarity. It's not bitterness. It's filtration. In a world where most people are addicted to attention, where relationships run on transaction, the one who pulls back without a word holds the mirror to everyone else. The results are often painful. People you thought cared evaporate. People you gave everything to go silent. But that silence, it's not loss, it's revelation. Understand, the people who vanish when you go quiet were never there for you. They were there for your energy, your presence, your usefulness. Take that away, and they lose interest. And that's exactly what you need to see. The Machiavellian never overextends. He lets absence do the talking. You don't need to ask for love to receive it. You don't need to demand loyalty to expose betrayal. You simply remove your presence and watch who notices, who cares, and who disappears. Let them speak through their silence. Because when you ask for nothing, what they give tells you everything. Game 4. Reverse empathy. This game is brutal, surgical, and completely revealing. It's called reverse empathy, and it's how you discover the predators hiding in plain sight. Here's how it works. You share a small vulnerability, a failure, a moment of weakness. But here's the catch. You share it on purpose. You plant it like bait, not to receive comfort, but to study their reaction. Because most manipulators, narcissists, and self-serving people have one common trait. They pretend to care until your pain becomes a weapon they can use. Machiavelli understood this. Never reveal wounds you don't want reopened. So instead of revealing your real scars, give them a fake one. Tell them something that sounds raw but is strategically chosen. Then wait. Here's what you're looking for. Do they try to use it against you later? Do they suddenly bring it up in an argument? Do they gossip about it behind your back? Do they lose respect for you the moment you look less perfect? If yes, congratulations. You've just exposed a threat before it had time to grow fangs. This is not paranoia. This is intelligence, because too many people hide their malice under the mask of sympathy. They act concerned until they realize they can gain leverage from your pain. This is why reverse empathy is so effective. You're not revealing yourself, you're setting a trap. When someone uses your vulnerability as ammunition, they've just told you one thing: they are not safe. They don't deserve real access to you. They don't get loyalty, they don't get trust, they get distance and permanent demotion. See, most people confuse empathy with intelligence, but the Machiavellian doesn't. He knows what you give people emotionally is what they can use strategically. So he doesn't expose himself, he exposes others. Remember, real allies will protect your weakness. Fakes will store it like a weapon, so give them the chance to reveal their intentions. Don't wait for betrayal. Engineer the situation that forces it to show itself early. Your vulnerability isn't the danger. Trusting the wrong person with it is. Game 5. Change the power dynamic. Most people are loyal until the power shifts, until you're no longer praising them, no longer giving, no longer playing the role they expect. And that's when the truth steps forward. The game? Change the power dynamic. Here's how it works. You subtly withdraw your attention, validation, or support. You stop being their emotional crutch. You stop being easily available. You don't announce it. You don't explain it. You simply pause. And now, you watch, because this is when their mask starts to crack. Will they respect the space and wonder what shifted? Or will they lash out, guilt-trip you, or instantly drift towards someone who gives them what they want? Machiavelli would call this testing the loyalty of silence. See, most people are loyal only when you're in power, only when you're doing something for them. But shift the dynamic, pull back your power, and their true posture is revealed. This is not about control, it's about clarity. When you reduce your investment, do they reach out? Do they try to restore balance? Or do they vanish the moment your usefulness is questioned? If someone disappears when you're no longer a source of ego food, they were never loyal to you. They were loyal to what you did for them. Here's how to apply this test surgically. Stop complimenting. Praise others, not them. Delay your responses. Let them feel distance. Withdraw emotional support. Let silence replace affirmation. Then observe, not emotionally, but with cold curiosity. This test will expose 3 types of people. 1. The loyal. They remain consistent, calm, and stable. 2. The insecure. They panic, chase, and question. 3. The entitled. They get angry, blame you, or move on instantly. Guess who you keep? The loyal. The rest? Let them fall away. They were never yours to begin with. Power isn't just in what you give, it's in what you can take away, without flinching. That's why this test is devastating. It teaches you who values you and who only valued the power you gave. Game 6, present the opposite view. This game is pure psychological warfare. It doesn't require silence. It doesn't require distance. It requires one thing: opposition. Here's the move. Casually present the opposite opinion of what someone just said. Not aggressively, not mockingly, just calm, thoughtful disagreement. And then, you watch. You don't care if your view is right. You're not trying to convince them. You're trying to reveal them. Because disagreement is the pressure test. It's where people expose their emotional discipline, or their lack of it. Watch how they react. Do they listen carefully? Do they ask questions? Or do they get tense, irritated, defensive? Machiavellian insight: those who cannot tolerate opposition cannot be trusted with power. Because if someone rages at disagreement, it means they don't want truth. They want control. This game destroys masks. Fake kindness, exposed. False empathy, exposed. Surface level humility, gone. Here's why it works. When most people feel intellectually challenged, their ego takes the hit. An ego does one of two things. It listens to refine itself, or it attacks to protect itself. Either way, you now see what's underneath the performance. This game has other advantages too. It tells you who argues from emotion versus who argues from reason, who listens to understand versus who listens to reply, who needs to win versus who needs to learn. In power dynamics, this is critical, because when things go sideways, you don't want the loudest, you don't want the most agreeable, you want the most stable. Disagreeing with someone calmly is a mirror, and many people can't survive their own reflection. That's why this test is dangerous. It reveals who is ruled by their emotions instantly. Want to escalate it? Disagree publicly, in front of others. Then watch if their composure holds or their insecurity floods out in front of everyone. Machiavelli would say, challenge the mind and you challenge the mask. This is how kings test their court, not through flattery, but through fire. Game 7. Say no and watch closely. This is the final and most brutal test. It's simple, it's silent, and it's surgical. Just say no. Say no to a favor. Say no to a request. Say no to a demand, big or small. Then do nothing. Say nothing. Explain nothing. Just watch. Because a man's true face doesn't appear when you say yes. It appears when you deny him. This is the Machiavellian litmus test for character. How do they act when you're no longer useful? Most people carry a mask of politeness. They laugh, they smile, they pretend loyalty, but it's conditional, tied to your compliance. The second you break that, the real person steps out. Here's what happens. The entitled become offended. The manipulative become distant. The weak become resentful. The honest accept it with calm, and the loyal remain exactly the same. This game has no losers, only exposure. And the beauty is, it's not aggressive. You're not yelling, you're not attacking, you're simply removing the benefit and observing the shift. Machiavelli would say, loyalty without profit is the only loyalty worth having. Saying no is like pulling oxygen from a room. If someone needs constant validation, approval, or agreement, they'll suffocate. React when you deny their opinion. Flinch when you delay support. Crumble when you stop chasing. This test applies to every domain. Friends who vanish when you're unavailable. Partners who go cold when you're not accommodating. Colleagues who turn spiteful when you set a boundary. This is the final psychological reveal. Because no is not just a word, it's a weapon, and it slices cleanly through every illusion they built around you. Most people don't realize this. You don't need to argue, explain, or confront. Just say no and the truth walks in. Even better, say no with no emotion, no anger, no apology, no energy. A flat, emotionless refusal is pure dominance. It signals you are not afraid of conflict. You are not controlled by approval, and you do not negotiate your standards. Let them scramble, let them justify, let them show you what they really are when you are no longer giving. Because once you say no, you're no longer speaking to their mask. You're speaking to their core. And if that core turns dark, bitter, or entitled, you've won. Not by confrontation, but by clarity. Final Machiavellian insight. The truth is never spoken, it's revealed by how people handle your refusal. You say no to one thing, and you say yes to seeing their soul. Finally, truth is never given, it's forced out. People lie. They pose, they pretend, not because they're evil, but because the truth is strategic currency. And no one gives it away for free. They'll tell you what you want to hear. They'll mirror your values. They'll say what protects their image, secures their access, and keeps the benefits flowing. But here's the brutal Machiavellian truth. You will never know who someone really is until you test them. And not with words, with pressure, with silence, with refusal, with absence. That's when the mask slips. That's when their true nature steps forward. Because comfort hides everything, and stress reveals everything. Want to know their loyalty? Disappear. Want to know their respect? Say no. Want to know their truth? Say nothing, and watch. The weak get angry when tested. The fake become distant. The manipulative try to guilt you back into control. But the strong, the real, they don't shift, they don't crack. They pass the test because they weren't pretending to begin with. This is what most men miss. They ask for honesty. They beg for clarity. They plead for people to just be real. But Machiavelli would laugh at that. Because truth is not given, truth is forced out. It's extracted through psychological design. And these 7 mind games, they are not cruelty. They are clarity rituals. They strip away illusion. They dismantle the false self. They expose the hidden motives that would have destroyed you later. Because betrayal doesn't happen randomly. It happens predictably. You just didn't test early enough. That's your power now. You don't react emotionally. You don't confront directly. You set the game board and watch the pieces move. And when they move wrong, you don't chase. You don't explain. You don't forgive. You delete silently, permanently. Final Machiavellian insight. The man who waits for the truth to be spoken is always deceived. The man who engineers it owns it. Remember this, every person has a hidden intention. And if you don't extract it now, it will control you later. But now you know the games. Now you hold the mirror. You don't need to accuse. You don't need to argue. You simply set the trap and let the truth walk in on its own. What you just watched wasn't advice. It was a blueprint. A psychological war map for decoding every fake smile, every flattering lie, every silent betrayal. These weren't games, they were weapons. Because the world doesn't reward trust. It punishes it. But the man who tests first, the man who sets traps, observes silently, and walks away from weakness without hesitation, that man survives. That man wins. If you're done being manipulated, if you want ruthless clarity, emotional control, and Machiavellian dominance, subscribe now. This channel is not for the nice, it's for the strategic. Final shot. Don't chase answers. Don't beg for truth. Set the game. Play in silence. Watch them expose themselves. You want real power? Then stop listening. Start watching.